So, how do we measure software reusability? We've all, or at least all computer scientists have got an idea, but there are some formal processes out there. NASA, reuse readiness ratings. They define 9 levels of reuse, ranging from no reusability at all, forget it, run away, don't touch it, all the way through to 7, reuse with minimal risk, i.e., yeah, you could probably do this, it looks okay. There's minimal risk involved with that, go for it. Through to proven reusability, it's already happening all over the place. Let's say Firefox that I was talking about a moment ago, the Apache web server, various mail clients, various pieces of open source software. Moodle will be familiar to many people in this world that is in 9. It defines a whole set of evaluation topics. I'm not going to go through the list, but they're the obvious things that you can think of: documentation, extensibility, IP management, and so on. All the URLs I'm going to provide you of this same form, oss.ly, so you just actually need to write it down once and then the code at the end. That will take you to a briefing note which will expand on what reuse readiness ratings are on the OSWatch site. Then there's business readiness rating. Same kind of idea, but it's less about reuse and more about whether it's mature enough as a tool to be able to bet your business on in this case. But it's the same if your business is research. Same kind of idea, the way it's worked, same kind of evaluation criteria or overlapping evaluation criteria. More information at OSLI/BRR. Open source maturity models, very similar again, similar sets of categories and criteria. More information at OSLI/OSMM. Qualification and selection of open source software, same kind of thing again. Same kind of evaluation criteria, although they've broken it down to 3 and these are each broken down into 4 and 5 each. But we're seeing a pattern here. Reusability within software is identifiable. And these models help us measure that. But what about open innovation? What about the practice of creating the software? I said it's not, open source is not about creating a license, it's about the way you develop software. Those other things look at the technical reuse and the IP reuse. But what about the open innovation process, the software development process? Some of you may have heard the capability maturity models. They're great. They look at measuring processes in terms of, are they good quality processes, are they reproducible, are they flexible, etc., etc. That works fine, but it doesn't measure openness, it only measures the internal management of the project. But we learn from it. And that was where my seeking for the answer stopped. And there was no way of measuring true openness. So Pia Waugh, who is an Australian counterpart of ours, and myself and some of the other OSWatch team members got together and we wrote this methodology called the Openness Rating. This URL here doesn't take you to more information, it takes you to a form in which you can experiment with it, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But this essentially asks you a whole load of questions and gives you a percentage score of openness at the end, and the goal here is to help you target the areas where you're weak on, and I'll talk a little bit more in a moment. But there's also practice. We should look at what's happening in practice, and I always use the Apache Software Foundation as an example, and the reason for that is I'm a vice president of the foundation. I know how it works inside out. It's kept me in food for many, many years, and it also got me into this job in the first place anyway, having that on my CV. But it could be the Eclipse Software Foundation, it could be Mozilla, it could be GNOME, it could be anybody in the open source world. In the Apache Software Foundation, they don't talk about code. They talk about community. They talk about bringing people together who have common and overlapping needs, providing them with an environment in which they can collaborate, a non-competitive environment. And I'll stress non-competitive. Anybody in this room think that Microsoft, Google and Yahoo are not in competition with one another? All 3 are platinum sponsors of the Apache Software Foundation. Okay, that's what we're creating here. It's truly collaborative environments. And how do they do it? Create processes that force them to be independent of one another. Compare that to something like the W3C or the IEEE or any of these standard bodies where things either get blocked forever or they get rushed through and nobody's happy with the solution. What's happening here is rapid innovation that ultimately created the internet. Not single-handedly, there's lots of other things went along, but without the Apache web server, no internet, or at least not internet as it looks today. And there's 70 other projects within the foundation. So the incubating community graduation requires 3 independent committers. That means people who are actually active, and no direct funding of projects. And this is a big problem in our sector. We give money to people to develop software projects. Okay, the software might be a byproduct of some other type of research, but ultimately we're paying Dave and Carol to work on my experiment with the rest of the team. We're not paying them to create a sustainable output in terms of the software. Yes, we say we'd like the software to be sustainable, but we don't pay them to do the work that needs to be done in that. We pay them to produce software, not sustainable software. And we don't understand how to go about doing that. That's one way, no direct funding of projects. You fund the researchers to do what they need to do about their research. You don't fund the software development. And the process we have here is not a new process. It's been refined within the ASF over 15 years. If we count free software development, 25 years. Technical evaluation, there's loads of methods for automated testing of code, so we can use that kind of information. And if you bring all this together, what you get is a software sustainability maturity model, like the CMM for processes, but we're looking at the whole software production and innovation lifecycle. Why bother? Why would we want to do it? Encourage collaborative development, create an environment which is conducive to collaborative development, and ultimately produce reusable software. Why do we want reusable software? Sustainable software. It reduces duplication of effort. Reducing duplication of effort allows you more time to focus on quality. You're improving quality. Although some open source you're reducing quality, that's true. Has to be well managed open source. And that's what this is all about. Survival of funding beyond projects, software outputs beyond funded development. That means maintaining the knowledge that went into the development of the software. That means being able to hand over to a new leader when the old leader moves on. And that happens. Sometimes the leaders just lose interest or get money for another project or whatever. You've got to be able to hand over. And the ultimate goal, if there's anybody in here from the research councils or HEFCE or JISC or whoever, the goal is to increase the return on investment on research software. Does it work? I have 0 minutes left, so I won't tell you. We haven't done any formal evaluation yet. We've done informal evaluation with about 50 projects. In the case of self-evaluating, looking at your own project, every single one of the people who gave us feedback, which was most of the 50, said yes, that this was really useful. The main advantages are highlighting project issues that require attention. So where are we not doing the things that we need to do? Provided that, in turn, provides a focus for skills development. So they can then come to OSWatch and say, hey, you know what? It appears that our IP management processes are very poor. Can you help us? And we can then look at their self-evaluation and see where the problems are and address the problems with them. Useful for both open and closed activities, which is very helpful, to say the least. When you are internal to a team, you know the answers to all the questions. So you know your processes, you know the software management processes, etc. So you can evaluate yourself, even if you're not an open source project. Externally, less trialing here, 15 plus projects, and of course you have to wait to see if the project is truly sustainable and so on before it being useful. But it does indeed highlight potential risks. So if you're talking about reusing some software, it does highlight where the risks are and allows you to plan for those risks and allow you to budget accordingly. But it is only truly useful for open source software because you need to see the development process, see the code and so on to be able to evaluate it. Many aspects can be automated, but you do need metadata to do that. OSWatch do have a project that is building a software metadata repository, but that's a different issue for today. Anybody who wants to have a play with this, please feel free. That URL will take you to the form where you can go through the whole evaluation process. Once you've done that, go to this URL, which will show you your summary results, not your detailed results. That is cleaned periodically, so if you want to keep it, drop me an email, and there's an email address at the end of it. Just drop me an email and tell me, can you keep this piece of data, and I'll pull out the full results for you and keep hold of them. There's just more stuff to do. I just want to leave a couple of minutes for questions.
Thanks, Ross.